video, let us discuss about the types of optimizers. Optimization algorithms are used to update weights and biases. That is the internal parameters of a model to reduce the error. So it can be divided into two categories: constant learning rate algorithms and adaptive learning algorithms. So what are optimizers? Optimizers optimizes the learning rate automatically to prevent the model from entering a local minimum and is also responsible for fostering the optimization process. There are many optimizers. We are going to discuss about few optimizers which are being currently used in the industry like ADAM, ADAGRAD, RMS Prop, gradient descent, and there are few more. So to understand this optimizers, we should have a quick review on loss function. So the loss functions are helpful to train a neural network. Given an input and a target, we calculate the loss. That is, we try to find out the difference between output and the target variable. So in regression problem, there are positive and negative errors. And MSE is the most common loss function. So what do we do here? We will be trying to find out the mean square error. So in classification problem, there is a probability of correct class in classification, and cross entropy is the most common loss function. Now let us understand with this example. We have x and this is the actual value of y. In case if we try to find out the relationship between x and y, immediately we can figure out that y is equal to 4x. Since it is a simple relationship, we can find out that. Just think that it is a complicated relationship or the machine doesn't know the relation between x and y. So first the machine is initializing weight as 2. Now, when weight is equal to 2, what will be the predicted values of y? Since we have taken relation as y is equal to 2x, it will get substituted in this equation and this will be the predicted value of y, right? And if we try to find out the squared error for this weight 2, which is nothing but y minus y hat to the whole square, this is basically about the loss function, cost function we are trying to calculate. This is equal to 120. Now what is being done? The weight is little updated by or increased by 0.0001, right? So what is the equation now? Y is equal to 2.0001x, right? Now these are the predicted values of y hat in which weight is equal to this. Now the squared error is being calculated for this. So from the actual value, and this is going to be the predicted value, right? Y minus y hat the whole square. So now we get the error as 119.988. So from this, what we can understand, the error is getting reduced, yes or no? Because previously it was 120 and now we are getting it as 119. We have increased the learning rate just by 0.0001, right? So the error is getting reduced. Otherwise, we can try like weight is equal to 1.9999, right? Now, in this case, y is equal to 1.9999x. Now, the squared error is being calculated and this is what our output is, right? Now, when the weight is reduced, the error is getting increased in this with this data. But when weight is increased, we are getting the minimal error than the previous case. Hope this is clear to you, right? So this is about the cost function, right? Fine. So in this diagram, what we can understand, this is being plotted between loss and weight. So this figure summarizes the steps where we check for the derivative and increase the weights if the loss decreases and vice versa before we hit where the loss reaches zero. So this place the loss reaches zero, because we are very much aware that in the previous case it was actually y is equal to 4x. When you consider this relationship y is equal to 4x, definitely the error is going to be 0. That we know. That is what we can see over here. The loss is going to be 0. But when the weight was considered as 2, the error was around 120. When the weight was increased, the error was getting reduced. That is why it is getting reduced, right? So when the weight was increasing, what was happening? The loss was getting reduced, right? When the weight was decreasing, we have seen that the loss was getting increased, right? So this is what we are trying to see, where we can reach this position. So what is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to reach this position. But how to do that? Our aim is to minimize zero, right? So how are we going to achieve that? That is the great question for us to answer. So now let us discuss about the learning rate. The amount that the weights are updated during training is referred to as the step size or the learning rate. The learning rate is configurable hyperparameter used in the training of neural networks that has a small positive value, mostly in the range between 0.0 and 1.0. The learning rate hyperparameter controls the rate or speed at which the model learns. If learning rate is too large, it will result in weight updates that will be too large, and the performance of the model will oscillate over training epochs. Oscillating performance is said to be caused by weights that diverge. A learning rate that is too small may never converge or may get stuck on a suboptimal solution. So let me make it little more clear. In this case, we started with the weight is equal to 2, and then we got some error as 120. Just think that I'm making the weight now to 5. So what will happen now? From here, it will move back here. Now again, if I reduce it to 1, again it will move here. Again it will move here. So that is why there may be a problem in reaching this minima, right? Global minima, right? So that is the reason whenever we have some whatever initialization we do, we have to take the steps carefully. Here the challenge is that if you take larger steps, it may oscillate here and there. If you take smaller steps, it may take lot of time to reach this position. Hope this point is clear to you, right? So that is where we are trying to understand about the learning rate. So learning rate, in the sense, what we will try to do over here, so we will be having some old weight as well as the new weight, right? So what I'm writing now, I'm trying to find out the new weight, which is equal to nothing but old weight minus learning rate into dou L by dou W, which is nothing but the slope of this, right? So dou L by dou W means that is the slope of this. So we are ultimately trying to get the proper learning parameter, because this is going to be the step. So in the previous case, we were increasing it by 0.0001, right? So that is what we are deciding. And once we choose the learning rate, say now this slope is being negative. Now this is being over here. Now the slope is being negative. Negative into negative. So that what will happen? It will become positive. So the newer weight will get added up. The newer weight will get added up. Now in case we are here and the slope is being positive, when it is positive, positive into negative becomes negative. so that the new weight should be decreasing, right? That is what we try to save over here, right? Hope this is clear to you. So ultimately, what are we doing with this gradient descent? Just imagine that, like I was showing you a curve, right? So now just imagine that this boy is blindfolded and his aim is to reach this position. Now just imagine that if he is keeping larger step, there may be a high possibility that he may fall. Instead of that, what I say is like he may go here. If he keep larger step, he may go over here, right? It is just an imagination, right? Now, in case if we keep smaller steps, what we can expect? It may take a longer time to reach this lake, right? So this is the simple example to illustrate about gradient descent. So gradient descent is an optimization algorithm used to minimize some function by iteratively moving in the direction of steepest descent as defined by the negative of the gradient. So in machine learning, we use gradient descent to update the parameters of our model. What are parameters? Parameters are coefficients in linear regression. In neural networks, it is called as weights. So this is the visual representation of gradient descent. Just you can have a look at it. Now we were discussing about the loss function, right? So this loss function or cost function or error function tells us how model is at making predictions for a given set of parameters. So when weight was equal to 2, how good my model was. So I'm just with the help of learning rate, and I'm learning, and I can understand that if I increase the weight, definitely there will be a reduction in the loss. Accordingly, I'm moving, and at a place of 4, I can find out the error is actually 0. We cannot always go for 0 error because that is not possible with the real world data set. That is highly impossible. So always try to find out the minimum loss, right? So the cost function has its own curve and its own gradients. The slope of this curve tells us how to update our parameters to make the model more accurate. So to this one, like we can say that like here the slope is being negative, right? So from that we can find out that the weight has to be increased. So here it is, the slope is being positive, right? So we can say that the weight has to be, yes, decreased. So this is what we will be trying to understand from the loss function. So now what do you understand from this? Yes, you are right. We have reached the question, right? Now, when we talk about gradient descent, there are three primary types of gradient descent that we are using modern machine learning and deep learning algorithms. A data set may have millions or even billions of data points, and calculating the gradient over the entire data set can be computationally expensive. So batch gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent, mini batch gradient descent. When we talk about batch gradient descent, in batch gradient descent, we process the entire training data set into one iteration. So weights are updated once an epoch is completed. When we train the model to optimize the loss function using the mean of all the individual losses in our whole data set, it is called batch gradient descent. What is stochastic gradient descent? In stochastic gradient descent, we process a single observation instead of entire data set from the training data set in each iteration. So we calculate the error, gradient, and new weights and updating the model for each observation in the training data set. So this is a changed version of the gradient descent method where the model parameters are updated on every iteration. It means that after every training sample, the loss function is tested and the model is updated. These frequent updates result in converging to the minima in less time. but it comes at the cost of increased variance that can make the model overshoot the required position. But here the advantage is that it requires lower memory as compared to the previous one, like previous one in the sense like gradient descent, because there is no need to store the previous values of the loss functions. Now, mini batch gradient descent. So here the model parameters are updated in small batch sizes. It means that after every n batches, the model parameters will be updated, and this ensures that the model is proceeding towards minima in fewer steps without getting derailed often. So this also results in less memory usage and low variance in the model. So here basically we process a small subset of the training data set in each iteration. So it is a compromise between these two gradient descent, batch gradient descent and stochastic gradient descent. So batch size is a very important hyperparameter. It can vary depending on the data set. So deciding the batch size is again a very crucial step. Now the momentum based gradient descent. So based on the first order derivative of the loss function, we are back propagating the gradients, right? So the frequency of updates can be after every iteration, a batch, or at the last, but we are not considering how many updates we have in the parameters. If this history element is included in the next update, then it can speed the whole process. And this is what momentum means in this optimizer. The history element is like how our mind memorizes things. If you are walking on a street and you cover a pretty large distance, then you will be sure that your destination is some distance ahead and you will increase your speed, right? So this element depends on the previous value, learning rate, and a new parameter called gamma, which controls the history update. So the momentum algorithm accumulates an exponentially decaying moving average of past gradients and continues to move in their direction. One simple technique for dealing with the problem of widely differing eigenvalues is to add a momentum term to the gradient descent formula. So this adds inertia to the motion through weight space and smooths out oscillations. Momentum can improve the speed of the optimization process in concert with the step size, improving the likelihood that a better set of weights is discovered in fewer training epochs. So momentum helps in accelerating SGD in a relevant direction. So it's a good idea to also consider momentum for every parameter. The advantages are it avoids local minima. As momentum adds up speed and hence increases the step size, optimizer will not get trapped in local minima. And the second advantage is that faster convergence. So momentum makes the convergence faster as it increases the step size due to the gain speed. The next one is Nesterov accelerated gradient. The momentum-based gradient descent gave a boost to the currently used optimizers by converging to the minima at the earliest. But there is another problem. This method takes a lot of U-turns and oscillates in and out in the minima value, adding to the total time. The time taken is still way too less than normal gradient descent, but this issue also needs a fix, and this is done in this method. So the approach followed here was that the parameters update would be made with the history element first, and then the derivative is calculated, which can move it in the forward or backward direction. This is called a look ahead approach, and it makes more sense because if the curve reaches near to the minima, then the derivative can make it move slowly so that there are fewer oscillations and therefore we can save more time. There are several other variants like vanilla gradient descent, momentum based. Now, when we talk about adaptive learning rate, it could be ADA-grad, ADA-delta, or MS-prop. And there is another one called a combination of momentum and adaptive learning rate. Vanilla gradient descent is the simplest form of gradient descent technique. Here, vanilla means pure or without any adulteration. Its main feature is that we take small steps in the direction of the minima by taking gradient of the cost function. ADA-grad keeps updating the learning rate instead of using constant learning rate. It accumulates the sum of squares of all the gradients and use that to normalize the learning rate, so that now the learning rate could be smaller or larger depending upon how the past gradients behave. That is very nice, right? So it adapts the learning rate to the parameters, performing smaller updates for parameters associated with frequently occurring features and larger updates for parameters associated with infrequent features. So that is why it is well suited for dealing with the sparse data. So for a sparse feature input, where most of the values are 0, we can afford a higher learning rate, which will boost the dying gradient resulted from these sparse features. If we have a dense data, then we can have a slower learning. So the solution for this to have an adaptive learning rate that can change according to the input provided. So AdaGrad Optimizer tries to offer this adaptiveness by decaying the learning rate in proportion to the updated history of the gradients. How nice it is. So it means that when there are larger updates, the history element is accumulated and therefore it reduces the learning rate and vice versa. But there is one disadvantage. Learning rate decays aggressively and after some time it approaches to 0. The next one is about ADA delta and RMS prop. AdaGrad accumulates the sum of squares of all the gradient and use that to normalize the learning rate. Due to this AdaGrad encounters an issue that we discussed. The learning rate in AdaGrad keeps on decreasing, due to which at a point learning almost stops. So to handle this issue, ADA delta and RMS prop decay the past accumulated gradient. So only a portion of past gradients are considered. Now instead of considering all the past gradients, we consider the moving average. So basically it is an improvement to the AdaGrad optimizer. It reduces the aggressiveness of the learning rate by taking an exponential average of the gradients instead of the cumulative sum of squared gradients. So it remains intact, as now exponential average will punish larger learning rate in conditions when there are fewer updates and smaller rate in a higher number of updates. The next one is ADAM, Adaptive Moment Estimation. This combines the power of RMS prop and momentum based GD. In ADAM optimizes the power of momentum GD to hold the history of updates, and the adaptive learning rate provided by RMS prop makes ADAM optimizer a powerful method. This is the most powerful method actually. It also introduces two new hyperparameters, beta 1 and beta 2, which are usually kept around 0.9 and 0.99, but we can change according to the use case. So, the task of a gradient descent optimizer is to find out the optimal weights for the parameters, but sometimes it may end up in finding weights which are less than the optimal value, which leads to inaccuracy of the model. Ideally, our SGD should reach till global minima, but sometimes it gets stuck in the local minima, and it becomes very hard to know that whether our SGD is in global minima or stuck in local minima. So how can we avoid this local minima? Increasing the learning rate. If the learning rate of the algorithm is too small, then it is more likely that SGD will stuck in a local minima. We can add some noise while updating weights. So when we add random noise to weights, this also sometimes be helpful in finding out the global minima. Assign random weights. Repeated training with a random starting weights is the most popular method that we try to avoid this problem. But here the problem is about the computational time. We can use large number of hidden layers. So each hidden node in a layer starts out in a different random starting state. So this allows each hidden node to converge to different patterns in the network. Parameterizing this size allows the neural network user to potentially try thousands of different local minima in a single neural network. Hope this is clear to you. So here we have discussed about the optimization algorithms. And this is really important to build a neural network. Thank you.